I'm delighted to introduce Angie to you today. We're going to talk about what happened to her when she had cancer some years ago. And as she's been reflecting now on who she was then and who she is now, we're also going to talk about how counselling and creativity has helped her on her journey. Angie, welcome and thank you so much for this. You've been clear for 9 years now?
I have, 9 years,
Which must be a great feeling.
It's amazing, yeah, absolutely amazing.
And you shared with me that this feels like the right time to explore this journey.
Definitely. It feels like I'm at a time in my life I want to be able to own this as part of my story. I want to be able to move forward, and I want to tell my story now with not just the pictures but the words and the feelings that go with it. So that's why it feels
so
now.
Grateful to you for this. It feels really important. Maybe we can go right back to the beginning and what it was like for you, who you were when you got the diagnosis as you look back now, and what happened at that time.
I think when I got the diagnosis I felt I wasn't the person that I am now. I didn't have the emotional language that I have now. I guess going through it and actually having that diagnosis, the only way I can describe it, I was numb. I was absolutely numb. And it feels really hard even talking about that now because I just feel so differently.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Did you have people around you you could talk to about it and share? How did people react, for instance?
I think it was difficult enough for me. I was very in my own world. I didn't feel like that I had anybody around me. I had grown up just having to look after myself a great deal, and I think the whole thing around the diagnosis just made me even more determined that I had to do this. There was only me in this, and there was nobody else that could reach me or be with me. That was very much my script. And even on the time that I was diagnosed, it was all about making other people feel better and not being a burden to other people. So
that's a very powerful script.
Yeah.
Don't be, and I'm always hearing don't be a nuisance, don't upset other people. Was that the kind of feeling?
Yeah, don't be a burden, don't be a nuisance, don't have emotions, just don't feel, because if I think what I learned, if I did ever feel, if I did ever show any kind of emotion, it wasn't actually okay. It didn't feel okay for me to do that. So
that sounds like something that goes way back.
It's something that goes all the way back, definitely, with me, usually. Yeah.
So as you look back now, are there any kind of highlights along the journey, things that stick out to you in your memory about your journey? Oh, it's a hopeless word, journey, isn't it? But the whole period of time of having cancer and what you had to go through, what stands out to you?
I think doing it on my own, that's all I can remember. And there was a couple of tiny little trigger points where I felt fear, my little friend Fear. And then as soon as I felt it, it would brought too much emotion to it, so I very quickly had to shut that down. And that includes when I first heard the word and at the point of diagnosis, and also the first chemotherapy that I ever had was very difficult.
Angie, you had chemotherapy and you lost your beautiful hair.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say a little bit about that?
I remember walking in the chemo ward for the first time, and nobody prepares you for what it's going to be like. And I remember stepping in this big ward. It was a big massive room with loads of chairs and people on drips and loads of ill people. And I just walked in and I looked around, and I took my friend who at the time came with me. So as I walked around, I remember saying, I can't do it, I can't do this. And she said, well, you're here now, you've got to get on with it. And I just remember, right, pack the fear away now. Pack the fear away and just get on with it.
Push down the emotions.
Yeah, push it down and pretend it's not there and just get on with it. And then I remember just trying to be as happy as I could and as joyful as I could, and even going through the chemo, cheering other people up, joking, laughing, just making fun of it, because it was easier than trying to actually engage with what was actually going on for me. It just felt like I was somebody else, just going through the motions.
Just really going through the motions. You brought the inside out characters. Yeah. It looks like you brought her out, did you?
Yeah.
Joy?
Yeah. I think for me, joy was very much in the front because it was a way of hiding, really, the fear and the sadness that I was really feeling. I couldn't show these two, so this one was easier for other people to actually sort of take, and also for me to live out of that place was easier than acknowledging how I might feel.
And all the time, you're communicating that it was other people's needs, making sure other people weren't upset, that had become a priority for you.
Yes.
So what was happening to you inside?
I think my whole life script has been putting other people first. I was very much a carer and responsibility for mum when I was little. It was all about other people's needs rather than mine. And I even remember at the point of diagnosis, the nurse said to me, the doctor told me, oh, you've got cancer. I got up and walked out of the room, and the nurse said, did you hear? And I said, yeah. She said, you're not reacting. I said, tell me how I deal with this. And then she said, come back in a week and we'll give you the proper diagnosis because we're not completely sure. And I went back a week later and I took my friend with me again, and we sat there with the nurse, and the nurse said, yes, you've definitely got cancer. And I was expecting her to be very together for me, and she just burst into tears. And I turned around and went, oh my God, are you all right? You're going to be okay, you're going to be okay. And I think that's when the walls actually went up, and it was about them getting through. It was just getting through because I couldn't allow other people to feel like that hurt seeing her like that, and it just made me feel more determined. This is not other people's problem, this is my problem, and I will get through this. So.
What about anger? Did you feel angry at all about what was happening to you?
No, there was no anger at all. There was no anger because there was a part of me, in looking at it more recently, felt I deserved it. I deserved to have cancer, and there was disgust in that I felt that I did deserve that.
That's a very powerful thing to say, Angie. And you will know your story and where that comes from, which we respect right now. But I'm not hearing that you were being resourced and strengthened and encouraged. And as you look back now, and you think about the counselling that was going on, do you want to say a little bit about, did it help?
It did, because it was a place to go to. It was a safe place that I could actually go to, and just to be able to talk to somebody about what was actually going on. So yeah, it was a bit of a lifeline at that point, because there was nobody else that I could talk to about that. I didn't say what was going on for me apart from the basics of the appointments. I set up rota systems for my friends to come to chemotherapy to do the practical stuff.
To do practical things for you.
Much more practical.
Which was good.
Yeah, and it was the emotional side that I thought was actually missing. And even going through therapy, I don't think I was in touch enough with my own emotions, because I couldn't understand what they were, to actually be able to maybe make the most of it in the way that I would have needed at that time.
Do you know, we've been talking about this, and one of the things that I asked you is what are counsellors meant to do when they've got a client who's just had a diagnosis of cancer? How do you know what to say, whether you get it right or wrong? And I think a lot of us would be concerned to get it right. What advice would you give us all in that respect?
Don't try to get it right. There is no right, and being right is not about being real. It's about being real, and if you're fearful and if you don't know what to say, it's about maybe just saying, I don't know what to say, I don't know what I can do to help, I don't know how this is for you, tell me what it is that you need, tell me how I can help you. Rather than trying to make it better.
Oh gosh, yeah. Because some people would want them to say, you're going to be fine, doctors are brilliant, it's amazing what medicine can do now, all of which is true. You came on a deep release weekend when somebody in the group you were in addressed it a bit differently. Do you feel able to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can do. It was right in the middle of my treatment, and I was feeling I'd lost my hair. Just bringing that back because that might help, and I was disgusted with the way that I looked. I just felt absolutely horrible. I felt really ugly. I didn't look well, I didn't feel well. I didn't feel like, I felt I lost everything, but I couldn't say that. So for me, the deep release weekends were a way of being with other people, that I didn't have to pretend that I was anything that I wasn't.
That you weren't.
So it was really helpful. And I remember being in a small group. And we were doing some work, and I remember saying to the guys in the work, because people knew that I was going through cancer at that point, and I remember saying, I don't know how I feel, I don't know how you do this crying business, I don't know what it is that I'm supposed to feel.
You hadn't cried?
I don't do crying. I'd never really did tears, really, because I didn't understand the point of them. What was the point? What was the point in crying?
So there you were in this group. What is the point?
Yeah.
So what happened then?
It was really interesting because there was 4 of us in the group, and the other, I said to him, look, I don't do crying, and I don't know where this is going, but all I know is that I want to get through it. And we did some exercise where we were using blankets, different blankets, where I was, what colour the blanket was, and how that felt for me now, what the future might look like, and maybe the bit in between. So I put the bit that I was standing in, that it felt very, very frightening and very fearful, and I could actually own that in a group without worrying about they were trying to fix me or help me or make me feel better.
Or worrying about them?
Or worrying about them, because, I didn't feel that I had to worry about them, because it's a huge script that I have. I can't bother other people, I can't worry other people, but I didn't feel that. And then we did an exercise with the blankets where it was stepping off from where I was to where the future was, and I was quite happy to do that now, to the future, because there was no, in my mind, when I had the cancer diagnosis, it was either I was going to survive it, there was no question of anything else. It was just going to be I was going to get through it and I was going to get out the other side. That's the only thing I'd ever thought, or actually thought I'd thought. And then we started doing this exercise, and one of the girls said to me, well, how about in the middle? How about this bit? How about where you're feeling? Where is this bit? And I said, I don't know what this bit is. So we picked a blanket, and it was a blue blanket, dark blue at the time, and I put the blanket down, and it was my tears, and it was the sadness, which is blue as well. It was the sadness I was unable to do, and as we were talking about stepping into it, I couldn't step into it. And one of the ladies came up to me, and she was a doctor as well, and she said to me, you do realise you might die? And I looked at her and I thought, oh my God, and it just really helped me. That was the fear that I was holding, it was the fear that I've been sitting with. I knew rationally that wasn't true, but there was an emotional part of me that was absolutely scared out of my mind, and it just allowed me to actually step into that feeling. And I was just encouraged just to feel it. And I remember just dropping to my knees and sobbing. And I've not cried like that ever, I don't think, in my life. Just in that very, very safe, loving environment. And it just felt, everything came out at that moment. All the fear that I was holding, all the tears, all the emotion. And I just felt I was met in a very emotional place. And it just felt incredibly special.
It sounds like quite a brutal intervention. You might die. I mean, some of us, and people listening to this might think, oh my gosh, that's risky. But for you, it sounds like, am I hearing you needed it?
I did need it because I'm the kind of person, I'm quite hard to break through. I've got a quite tough exterior. I'm very guarded. I'm very protective of my feelings and my emotions. So in order to get through that, somebody really had to see behind it, not allow me to keep blocking that, but just somebody had to do that brutal kind of intervention. But because it was done in a very loving way, it made a difference. And to me, it's about kindness, and it's about going in with kindness. It's brutality in kindness, but it helped me I just heard somebody, I see straight through you, and that's what you're holding. And that to me was just a gift that nobody had ever seen that before. That side of me
there were
before.
the tears.
There were, absolutely sobbing. It wasn't just tears, it was sobbing. Sitting on this blanket and sobbing.
You've brought a blanket with you. Do you want to say a little bit about this?
Okay. At the end of as I was crying, what was really, really, really special, when the same lady picked up a very light blue blanket and wrapped it around the whole of me and said, this is our love. This is our love going with you. You can be okay with knowing that we love you and we're with you and we protect you through the treatment and we really hear you. And she just wrapped it around my shoulder, and I just felt like I was just covered in love, and it felt really, really real, very, very special, because I just felt a disconnection from love and emotions and feelings. And the blanket actually subsequently went to because the blanket was vulnerability as well for me.
Vulnerability. Yeah.
And the blanket that went to all the rest of my chemo sessions. It went to the surgery. I even took it down to surgery with me. I woke up, the blanket was with me. It followed me everywhere. That blanket.
It went into
the operating theatre with me. It came out of the operating theatre with
goodness.
me. It went everywhere for me, through the radiotherapy, throughout the whole lot. It just felt that I was very loved in that place. It felt very, very special. And the special part about this one here is a gift that was actually sent to me by the same lady that had been made especially for me, and it's all patchworky and it's beautiful, and it's got with love, with a heart.
Oh, wow.
And this is a very, very special gift, and it just meant a lot. So to me, blankets, and when we do work with blankets in deep release, but it was an incredible intervention, and this really is a gift to me and always will be. So blankets are a huge deal for me.
Thank you. That's so moving and so special. You get the all clear,
Yes.
and so life goes on.
Yes.
What happened next?
Well, I think when you get the all clear, you're supposed to be very joyful and grateful, and I was. I felt very joyful. I felt very happy. I felt very, thank goodness. But in a way, because everybody else is so happy, that's it. It's the end of the story. You're over it. You've done it. You've got through it. And I think there was a part of me that also sort of did that, because again, you can't bring that up with other people, because as far as they're concerned, it's done. So for me, I should be grateful. I get through it, so it's done.
Close the book. Finished.
Yeah, be grateful and move on. Be very happy about it and move on. And I did, and I did try. I really did try. I really did try.
And then?
And then 2 years ago, I had a recall on a mammogram. And what actually happened, I was actually in work at the time, and I got a telephone call left on my mobile phone about 3:30 in the afternoon, and it was, oh, there's something come up on your mammogram, we're going to need you to come back in, and can you call us? And I just went into panic. I tried to ring the hospital, nobody answered the phone, there was nobody available to answer the phone, I didn't know what they wanted. I just went into complete and utter meltdown like I've never been. I just felt overwhelmed. Every single one of these feelings were there. The fear, the sadness, the fear, is it going to come back? The sadness, what am I going to do with this? What am I supposed to do with my sadness? The anger, why weren't they answering the phone? Why wasn't anyone listening to me? The disgust at the way that I was acting, that almost like that I felt so emotional about it and I couldn't control it.
It's like a tsunami hit you.
Hit the whole lot.
You kept strong, in a way.
Yeah.
It depends how you define strong, doesn't it, really? But suddenly now, everything pours out with this recall.
Yeah, the whole thing actually sort of like came on top of me. But it was really funny. Everything was almost like flooding, but I couldn't. I just felt overwhelmed. I felt I was absolutely drowning. And I remember texting to my, friends and saying, look, I've had a recall. I'm really frightened. And all I got is exactly what I was used to, which just again told me to just shut up, which was, it's going to be okay, it's probably nothing.
But they didn't realise this was different now. Something had changed in you. And
no.
You didn't need that.
No, I didn't need that. And it was probably the worst thing, but that was the way they used to dealing with me.
That's how you'd always been.
Absolutely. But I didn't feel it was going to be okay, or I didn't want to hear it's going to be okay, because for the first time I was feeling everything all at the same time. So it's now, what do I do? So it was about reaching out to somebody that would say to me, you know what, actually, I'd panic too. It's okay to panic. And that, to me, it was just like a massive relief.
Yeah.
But that 24 hours were really tough, and I was supposed to be working. I had some clients that night, and I remember going into the agency because I couldn't get in touch with them to try and cancel my clients.
One thing I haven't said is you're a professional counsellor.
I am.
You know this stuff.
I do know this stuff,
Yeah.
but when it happens to you, it was just, I couldn't feel this stuff. And I remember going to the agency, and I tried to get them to call my clients. And I remember walking in, and luckily I got a friend there. He's a really good friend. He said, what's up? So I told him, and I just burst into tears. I don't do that. That's not what I do. It's not who I am. But I think I just needed to do that. And when I told him, he said, right, let me deal with it. And, we were able to cancel my client and just allow me to have some kind of break until the next day. And then I went back to the hospital and went for the test. but what was really interesting that day, I took one of my friends that I worked with who was also having a cancer scare, and I was trying to be happy and jolly for her.
Oh, the old habits die hard.
Absolutely. And it stopped me, I guess, thinking about me. But I
Yeah.
remember going in and to the doctors that deal with you, you're just another number. And they were just like looking around and went, okay, what? Okay, it's clear. And it's like, oh my God, do you not know what that felt like?
What I've just been through.
Yeah. So I came out of the hospital and I just remember sinking to the ground and crying, because that's what I needed to have done, just let it out.
So powerful, Angie.
Yeah.
You're feeling that emotion now.
Definitely.
Well, this was kind of like new Angie. Angie Mark II has got emotions, and you went on to do a bit more work, and we just talk a little bit about the cards, if that feels okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Angie, you've brought the work you did using the roles played in families cards. Would you like to show us what you've got there?
Yeah. Okay. I think working with the cards, what it enabled me to do, is actually understand, and it was one of the courses that I did with you, that I was doing a goldfish bowl, that allowed me to actually finally understand why I numb out my emotions and why I don't think they're acceptable and okay. And I think for the first time I actually saw that. And so what I've actually sort of done is recreated what I saw. So you get an idea of why I'm the way that I am.
Yeah.
And if you can see that the roles my mother had, very dramatic, very fragile, controlling, tearful, bully, volcano, heart attack. My mum was quite a character. She had a lot of emotions. They leaked out all over the place and everybody had to hold them. And she had needs, and she put me in the role as her carer. So it was very, very difficult. She was also an invalid. She played that card a lot. And ultimately, you know, it didn't allow me to have any kind of space, because what I saw with emotions, they were unsafe. That's all I ever saw.
And nobody addressed your needs, or your mum certainly didn't?
No, my mum couldn't even address her own needs, I don't think. So there was no way. She wasn't nurturing, loving, or, you know, if I did cry, she'd give me something to cry about, or it wasn't...
She's died now.
Yeah, but ultimately to say to me, I'll be dead by the time I'm 50, and then you're going to be sorry. And ultimately she fulfilled her own promise to herself.
And your father?
My dad is still alive, but my dad is very passive, invisible, puts on a happy smiling face. I can recognise them qualities in myself and the joy, pretend everything's okay. But he's also an iceberg and an ostrich. He's a terrible ostrich. He doesn't deal with emotions. He doesn't deal with feelings. He has to pretend he's strong all the time. So again, they're traits that I started to recognise in myself.
Hang on a minute, this looks a bit familiar.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the ostrich, I feel that's what I did when I went through the cancer treatment. Pretend it's not actually happening and just show strength, because it's easier than doing the emotional side of it. So actually, it impacted me when I did that.
And almost all the me, i.e. you, roles are rescuer roles.
Absolutely.
Helping other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, mummy's little helper.
Yeah.
The scapegoat, little Miss Fix-It, the nurse. Oh my God, definitely. Which is why I'm not very kind to myself, I don't think. I'm kind to other people in illness, but I'm not tolerant with myself. Reverse role parent and the caretaker, definitely. All my roles.
Wow. And what's this one? Oh yes, your brother. Yeah. Other members of the family.
Yeah. So again, more so with roles of my brother. My brother was a pattern match for my dad. Absolutely more or less the same qualities. Ostrich, invisible, strong. The golden boy as well. Everybody loved my brother. He was the first boy. He was a good boy. Didn't create waves. But he also sulked. He was very, very, very much like my dad, but my mum's favourite. She idolised him. So yeah, that's my brother. My sister is the pattern matching of my mum.
She's a replica, according to these cards.
Absolutely, and they couldn't stand each other. They absolutely couldn't stand each other, because my sister was more than a match for my mum, I think, in exactly the same way. The hysterics and the bully and the tears and the volcano, and there's another one, unsafe. There were a lot of emotion in my family, especially the female side. Very, very unsafe with emotions.
And is this you across the top
this
again?
This is more of me, yeah, more than me. So.
Angie, thank you so much for that. So working on that was was quite powerful for you.
Yeah.
And you began to make connections, to join the dots in a way, if you like, about, oh my goodness, I can see now how I became that person who first had the diagnosis.
Yeah.
And you've brought another card from the core needs set. Do you want to talk a little bit about kindness when ill?
Yeah, I think this one, when we tapped this one, and again this is in a goldfish bowl, doing some work with Yo, it was incredibly powerful. I'd never worked with these cards before, and what was quite evident was a lack of need that I actually had met in childhood. But this one particular for me is a huge one, the kindness when ill. If ever I was ill when I was a child, that was not acknowledged. I sent to school with measles, mumps, everything. I'm not looking after you.
Oh, but you were popular in the class.
Oh, yeah. But again, we just had makeup on your face. It was just, I'm not looking after you. If you think, I'm going to stay at home and look after you, you've got another thing coming. So illness was not tolerated at all. But I had to be my mum's nursemaid. She was diabetic. She was very controlling with that. And she used to literally send herself into hypo, so I would rescue her or somebody else. She would get sympathy from that. And I found that really, really difficult. So kindness when ill to myself is incredibly difficult. I do not give myself permission to be ill.
You've used present tense there. It is difficult. Is it changing, do you feel?
It's changing, but again, that's... I think when I identified this, what I realised is that I don't actually connect with myself and my feelings and my emotion enough, and that's what started me onto a different path, that I needed more relational relationships, and I needed to be much more real in relationships. And again, that included doing some different kind of therapy, which is going to help me to be much more relational and actually looking at how my feelings actually impact, including kindness when ill. And I think doing that and having these highlighted has sent me back into therapy almost, to look at the missing blanks, to put the emotions finally to the feelings. So it's much more feeling about the journey rather than just talking about it now.
Yeah.
I want to feel the emotions to understand why at that moment 2 years ago everything felt so overwhelming, and through the cards and through the inside out characters, which I absolutely love,
And the blanket.
and the relationships that I'm now forming is helping me much more to actually now tell my story, but not just the words, the emotions that actually go with it. So finally catching up, this is who I am.
Brilliant. Angie, thank you so much. That was incredibly powerful. I'm so grateful.
No, thank you. Thank you.